ब्रह्मरूपमादिमध्यशेष सर्वभासकम् भावषट्कहीनरूपनित्यसत्यमद्वयम् वाङ्मनोति गोचरञ्च नेति नेति भावितम् तं नमामि देवदेव रामकृष्णमीश्वरम्। Yes, Srijit.
Namaste.
Namaste.
This is actually not the previous session, but before that one.
Okay.
You were discussing about how to control the desires that come in the mind.
Yes.
Then how to have a control over it, and then based on which you have to actually build your life, and then be content with what you are having. And if that rhythm is getting out, then we need to recheck ourselves. And at that time, you were actually mentioning something like once the desire is formed inside the mind, then there is Akash actually getting formed. Then you were connecting it with the 5 elements, and then the final manifestation is Prithvi. So can you just once again say that? I just wanted to know that sequence, how it works in the mind.
Okay. You want to know the sequence as such?
Yes.
Basically, as I was telling you, probably you missed that sentence. Every one of us is interested in the origin of the universe, of this whole world. And probably this happens to be the main question whenever we enter spirituality. And everybody has this doubt. So, there are so many explanations about creation, so many orders. Somebody says that a man was created first, and there are different theories. But actually, this explanation which is given by Vasishtha is only to satisfy the intellect which is asking the question. I hope you get my point. It is basically to only satisfy, that is, keep the intellect for some time from its mischief of asking more questions on creation. So it says, basically, we have fallen. It's a fall. We basically are infinite, eternal. And, everybody says, Sat Chit Ananda, eternal bliss, eternal wisdom, eternal existence. So apparently, it looks as though, how is it that our nature is such infinite nature? How is it that we have become so puny? We are as if we are trapped in this particular body. Just to mention that, just to clarify that point for the time being, Vasishtha said that having fallen, how did it fall? One of the Upanishads says that he wanted to have company. It's referring to the Parabrahman. Parabrahman wanted some company, and that desire, it was a desire to meet somebody, to be with someone. That desire happened and the fall started for Parabrahman. Then he says it was Akasha. Because once you wanted to manifest, then you want to hear the sound. The sound is through Akasha. Then you want to see the form. Then it is Agni. Then in that order, these Panchabhutas have started. But the real crux is, which we are going to discuss today, which is very, very important as far as all of us are concerned. Basically, I am confident that most of us, or almost all of us who are participating in this session, are interested in putting whatever we learn into practice, right? So this is the second story in Upashanti Prakarana. Upashanti means putting the mind to rest. Mind is putting to rest. Vasishtha never uses any forceful language. He never says in Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha, you do Nirodha of mind. Vasishtha says, calm down the mind. Let us not eliminate the mind as such, put it to rest. So he says, these are the things which we should follow. And for that, earlier in the last session, we talked about Janaka. Janaka was basically a adhikari. He had that eligibility for enlightenment. Because of that, just by hearing those siddhas, the songs of siddhas, he became enlightened. But we are not in that stage, nor are we prepared, because we have certain limitations. And Vasishtha Muni starts with this grand limitation, which is familiar to all of us. I'll come to that after telling you an example of, I think we have started the session. We'll start the session now. Vasishtha says that we have mushti. Mushti means the hand which is closed fist. And it's beautiful. You say, let me confess, I have been reading Vasishtha for such a long time. And yesterday when I was going through the book, for the first time, I noticed this word, which is so important, mushti. Whenever we grab something, what do? We grab it in the hand and hold that thing in our mushti, mushtika. So I'll narrate an example, which will clarify the explanation later on. We have certain tribes in Kalahari Desert, African. And this was seen by us in a movie called as Beautiful People. I do not know how many of you have heard it. Beautiful People. Some folks call them animals. So it talks about various animals. And he also shows a tribe. In Kalahari Desert, obviously there is shortage of water, paucity of water. So these people, these tribesmen, are always in search of water. And they have an ingenious way of finding the sources of water. They said there are monkeys, which are very fond of salt. Basically, they fulfill their mineral needs by eating this salt. But salt is not readily available. So wherever these monkeys are located, because they keep moving about, they are nomads basically, but these tribes people follow them. And on certain rocks, huge rocks, they drill small holes, just enough for the hand of the monkey to get inside, to put it inside. And in that hole, they put salt. So what happens? These monkeys sense it because they have a power of smell. So they go there and they put their hands inside. And once the hand goes inside, what happens to the hand? It becomes a mushtika. It becomes a fist. And because of that, once it becomes bigger. So they are not able to pull out the hand and they get stuck. This is what is happening, but I'll continue it. This is what we wanted to know. But actually what happens is they'll go on feeding this with salt because it's fond of salt. And at one time, the monkeys are desperate because they feel very thirsty. So somehow or the other, they want to get it and they go on hitting the monkey's wrist with some small stick. So the monkey leaves it and runs towards the source of water. That's how they get the water. Now, this is exactly what is happening to all of us. What is happening? We see something outside. And having seen it, having heard it, we want to grab that sound, grab that sight. And here the mushtika is not the hand. Of course, hands we do use for grabbing certain things physically, materially, but it is the manas, it is the senses and the intellect and all that. They try to grab it. And in this grab, in this act of grabbing, Vasishtha says, there is moha bija, the seeds of moha, seeds of infatuation, seeds of desire. And when you see this seed in your hand, what happens is you also see the different problems which we are going to. In fact, all our life as such, if you just notice that it's a struggle. Why has it become a struggle? Because we are trying to grab things just for a moment, maybe for 5 minutes, whenever we are sitting without any engagement as such. Just I want you to observe the mind. What is happening to the mind? It is always thinking about the things outside, whatever is outside. And Upanishad also explains it, it clarifies it further. He says, because we are using the windows called as the senses, the eye, and all these windows open only outside. So it is very natural for us to grab at things. Vasishta says, this is to be avoided by a seeker. How do we grab? See, it's so logical and it's so full. Literally, I personally feel it's self-explanatory. All these things are there in scriptures, but only as I was telling you, it's in Sanskrit. And most of the people who have interpreted it, they have interpreted and put it in front of us. What do they say? We have, after grabbing, we have an experience. Let us say that we have eaten something. We have heard a wonderful music. We have seen something. Then it becomes a pleasant experience for us. It's a happy experience for us. And then we get attracted towards it. Attracted. Sukhanushayi ragam, it is said. That is, that which follows the happiness is raga. Then there is another, which we do it, simultaneously we do that. Whatever is unpleasant, whatever is painful, whatever makes us unhappy, we want to avoid. We meet a person, suppose he or she insults, then we want to avoid that person. We see something on the road which we don't like, so we want to avoid it. Dvesha. Then again, the Vedanta says, we get stuck or we get attached to the world outside by both of them. You may ask, raga is understood. Whenever we are happy, we seek that. Seeking is we are going towards it, and so we can say that we are getting attached. But what about dvesha? We are trying to avoid it. Again, let us introspect a little bit. Do you think that most of the time we are only thinking of the pleasant things? I don't think so. The experience is whatever unpleasant has happened many years back, which has to be forgotten, which is very clear in our mind. I'll give an example. Let us say that I have a very close friend and we are very intimate for years together. Let us say that when we were studying for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, we are very close. And even after that, we are close. And at one time, he tells something or he comments about my habit in such a manner which becomes painful to me. Now, I forget those 5, 6, 7 years of intimate friendship. And then I remember only that person who has insulted me. Actually, he may not have insulted me, but I felt insulted by his comment. Don't we think more intensely about it? We do. So, Vedanta says we get attached to the world outside through both raga and dvesha. Okay. So, this is how he says we get attached to the world and there is no end of any miseries. Now, how to get out of it? Whenever we are doing any dhyana, and this has been told very beautifully by Sri Krishna in the 2nd chapter. He says, whatever we experience, whatever be the experience, whenever there is a contact of senses with their objects. Matra sparshastu kaunteya. Whenever there is a contact between the senses and their objects, what happens? Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada. There is either physical heat and cold or physical experiences or happiness and misery. The next line is very beautiful. He says, Agama paino anityaha Tam titikshasva. Beautiful. And this shloka can be, you can make it as your meditative mantra because it helps us to meditate very nicely. What does it say? It says all these experiences, whether pleasant or unpleasant, they are only passing. They don't last always. Whenever something happens, it always ends. And whatever starts, it has to end. Be it life, be it the experience, be it the popularity, name and fame, everything is passing. If you remember that, then you will be able to come out of this attachment. Some of the people were complaining that mind doesn't stay in a particular place. Why is it? Because we keep on dwelling on the things which has happened in the past, or we are afraid of something, or we are concerned about something which may happen in the future. And there is a lot of excitement in the present. So consequently, mind is always active. The mind has to be calmed down. How do you calm down the mind? Take up something. Maybe whenever you are doing asanas, whenever you are doing pranayama, breath, observe the breath, and you'll notice that mind goes helter-skelter. It becomes chanchala. It becomes random. But notice, last time we started with that example of Don Juan, who asked that Carlos Castaneda to wait for that moment when it becomes silent. The whole atmosphere as such becomes silent. In a similar manner, mind too becomes very active and it calms down on its own. Let's take one more example. There is a pond and it has very clear, crystal clear waters. You are able to see the bottom during the daytime. The marine life, the small fish or something which is moving about, you are able to see it because it's literally transparent. During the nights, it reflects the the full moon. On a full moon night, if you go on that bank or the pond, you are able to see the reflection. Now, you put a small pebble into the water, whether it's during the daytime or in the nighttime. What happens then? The waves start. The first start, it will be a smaller wave and then it goes on expanding. And because of this small turbulence, we are unable to see, because there is no clear water anymore, we are able to see only the waves. During the night, the clear, crystal clear reflection of the moon cannot be seen because the water has become turbulent. It's not very clear. This is what happens in the mind. Actually, thousands of stimuli, thousands of sensations are coming on and bombarding on our senses. But we know, human beings know, and every being knows which one to concentrate on. Presently, we are concentrating on what this talk is going about. But at the same time, we are aware of so many things which are happening, but we are not paying attention to it. So this quality of attention is disturbed when there is this grabbing aspect of the mind, that is, which goes and seeks objects from outside. It's not that we are holding it, as I already pointed out. It is that it goes and sticks to those objects and they want. So desires are created. So in a pond, otherwise the mind is calm. Otherwise, if we allow the mind to calm down, it calms down, but we never allow it. What do? The moment we hear some sound, even when we are sitting for a meditation, when we see maybe a dog barking, immediately, if you are a dog lover, you try to analyze which dog it is. It's an Alsatian German Shepherd or a Labrador or a pug. You have missed the point. Actually, you have paid attention to something which is other than what you are attending to. So the shloka, what does the shloka say? It says it is passing. Don't pay much attention to it. And he gives a beautiful word. Tam titikshasva. He gives a is a suggestion. He says, bear it for some time. Even when there is pain, even when there is tension, and the so-called problems these days, which all of us are surrounded with, they'll be there, but be patient. Tam titikshasva, because they're not going to be permanent. They're not going to be everlasting. Actually, the person who is experiencing it is everlasting. He's there all the time. He or she, whoever is observing, is there who is observing it. So what do we do now? Suppose you ask, what should we do? I would say, humorously, that's exactly what you shouldn't do. That do is to be underlined. Don't do anything. Again, it's something like a paradox. You are asking to, we are trying to calm down the mind, and you are saying you don't do anything. Exactly, don't do anything. So what we have to learn is not to do anything when we are meditating. Just be alert. Just observe. Just notice. Just witness. And it looks very difficult because of our habit. We are habituated. And normally, because of the speed these days, everything is to be achieved very fast. So suppose it was very funny. Somebody was telling, a mother was commenting that the child was hardly about 3 years old or 4 years old. She's asking the child, when will you grow? She's asking that 4-year-old child, when will you grow? So we were there. Why do you want him to grow? He says, yes, he's such a pain in the neck. Because all the time he keeps on demanding something. So I want him to grow up and then be on his own. Why? This speed is there. We have not learned to observe the growth of a child patiently. Again, Shama is lacking. So be patient. And I again repeat it 1,000 times maybe. Be patient with yourself. Don't expect things to happen immediately. But the moment you become patient, you'll be able to see. What is it that you see? Muni Vasishta tells, this has been, he tells a long process as such, which we'll not discuss into, but we'll take the help of Adi Shankaracharya. He says, what do we see? There's a very beautiful small Prakarana Grantha called as Drag Drashya Vivek. And the first shloka gives the whole hint, the whole process of what we are to witness, what we are to see, or what we see. At the moment you are seeing me, I'm seeing all of you on the screen. So this drashya is, this sight or these forms which I'm seeing is drashya, is what is seen. What is drak? Who is the seer? It is the eye. Rupam drishyam, lochanam drak. Eyes are seeing this form. Tad drishyam, the lochana, the eyes are drishya, drak to manasam. The internal organ, antakarana, manasam, that is observing this eye. It sees, it sends something, and those stimuli are formed on a screen inside. And again, it's inside. So, drak to manasam. Drishya. Now again, the mind too becomes a drishya, a scene. When drishya dhi vrittya sakshi. What does somebody sees? I'll come to that somebody just now. What does the mind mean? Dhi vrittya. Whatever modifications that are taking place. I want this. I'm after this. I want somebody to recognize me. I want somebody to recognize my work. I want somebody to appreciate me. These are all mental vrittis, modifications, which keeps changing. So these rishis are seen by someone, a witness, sakshi, witness. Then he says, the sakshi cannot be seen. It is beyond the sight. Just as we are able to see cosmos when there are huge, wonderful telescopes, which we are able to see the stars, the moon, the planets. The scientist is seeing that. But scientist cannot see himself. Even if he is standing in front of the mirror, it's only a reflection. But the real thing he is not able to see because it is inside. Drishya dhivrittya sakshi drageva natu drishyate. It is drag only. It is only the seer. It is only the witness. Now, this is the process which is narrated by Vasishtha in this particular small story as such. He tells all these and then he says, how should one develop? How should one develop and what should be the attitude? He says, one of the most common and almost all of us, every one of us without exception. What is our attitude? This body, which is dark, fair, handsome, otherwise tall, short, this body is me. This is everybody's vision. He says, because of this, we seek the objects outside. This is the reason. Because whatever we see outside is meant to look after this body, to make this body healthy, happy, because body needs something outside. So that is why all the time our mind is constantly seeking for the objects outside. Even when it's seeking name and fame, it is seeking the name and fame for this body. And he says, this happens to be the most gross of the attitudes. What should a seeker do? Seeker should also start, once he starts sitting, as we saw, maybe learn how to sit, learn how to be patient with yourself, be patient. Then you'll be able to see the fact that you are not able to concentrate, the fact that you are not able to attend to what you are attending. You observe the mind wandering here and there. Then suddenly, I've told this often, a reminder comes from within, as if it's a silent voice. What are you doing? You're supposed to sit in you're supposed to be meditating. What are you doing? Immediately the posture becomes all right, and then we come back and then start concentrating on what we are attending. Maybe it's a breath. So this reminder is telling us some wonderful, or it is suggesting something wonderful. What is that? It says, look outside, no problem. But at the same time, look within. So once we start sitting, that sitting posture is very important. We'll be able to notice other things as we saw them. That is, initially we'll be seeing the form. We'll be aware of the eye. The mind will be aware of the eye seeing it. And somebody else who is not anything, not connected with any of these, is observing, is witnessing. I am seeing you outside. So obviously, you are not me and I'm not you. Because the person who is seeing is different, is separate, who is outside. So whatever we are able to see what eye is doing. You close your eyes, maybe you'll start hearing. Close the ears. Slowly then you'll start noticing the mind, which is connected with these organs. If you are able to see the mind, what does it mean? You are not that. So he says, this is how slowly you retrace your steps backwards. You come backwards. And that is the reason why almost all the religions, all spiritual practices, they ask you to sit quietly, meditate. Meditate means learn to observe that which is outside you, including the body and the other instruments, because body is, just as the body is an instrument for survival, mind is an instrument too. It's called as antakarana, which has different faculties as such, different functions. It is not different, it's only functionally different. It has different functions. So it is also a karanam, antakaranam. It's an instrument. If it's an instrument, what should we do? Spirituality says, Vasishta says, use these instruments for understanding yourself. Everyone, all the religions, they always say that know who you are, recognize yourself. And once you recognize yourself, then things will be all right. Things will solve by themselves. And Srijit, I was telling that once you recognize yourself, that question of creation, it will dissolve. Because it's not relevant at that moment, but because you have recognized yourself and you are no more bothered about how did the creation arise and all that. That is necessary for us. Please don't mistake me. I'm talking about sadhana. I'm talking about a seeker's attitude, not of the other people. So somebody was commenting that if everybody starts sitting with their closed eyes, then what will happen to the industry? What will happen to the employment? I would say, my dear sir, all people will not be sitting for meditation. You can be rest assured, because most of us are still in this level of body, and that is why we'll keep doing what things we are doing. But only thing is, if you want sanity, if you want to be helpful to somebody, if you want to be happy, in spite of all these vicissitudes, with these problems, in spite of all these tribulations that come to us, then spirituality is the only answer. Learn to know yourself. Even when you start moving towards yourself, you'll find that things are easing out. And finally, as Sri Ramakrishna says very beautifully, he says that when the mother-in-law, I don't know how far it's relevant these days, when mother-in-law receives her daughter-in-law, her son's wife, she allows her to do all the household work. But once she knows that she is with the child, then slowly and steadily, the works will be removed from her. The responsibility will be. The mother-in-law says, no, you sit, I'll bring the things for you. And then when she delivers the child, the mother-in-law will be doing her seva. So, in the same manner, Sri Ramakrishna says, once you start moving towards her, slowly and steadily, the so-called responsibility will fall off on their own. Especially when you stop grabbing them, you release the mushti. Somebody it seems, tried to catch the akasha, the sky, in his mushti, in his fist. Even he was keeping on trying and he was not able to get. And one passerby, he said, "Uncle, what you are doing?" He said that I'm trying to catch akasha. He says, "Don't bother about it." He says, open your eye, open your palms. And then you'll find that akasha is all over you. You are in the midst of akasha and your hands are carrying the akasha. Something like that happens. So all those problems will go off. For that, Vasishta says, unless and until, these are all theoretical. This knowledge, as it is only a knowledge at the moment. But unless it becomes wisdom through practice, it will be of no use. The story is a very small story. There was a sage whose name was Dirghatapas. The names are also very beautifully coined by Muni Vasishta. Dirghatapas, and he had two sons, Punya and Pavana. Now, Dirghatapas means continual practice, continual penance. Punya means the knowledge of scriptures, or the knowledge of, the moral, let's put it the other way. Let's come down a little bit. Whatever the rules are there, we have started following it, and my actions are producing good results. That is, he has started acting upon the theory which he has heard. So his name is Punya because he has participated, he has practiced while exchanging the knowledge, while receiving the knowledge, he has participated with his guru, and then he has also practiced it. So his name is Punya. And the other one is Pavana. It means purity. Purity is a concept. I say somebody is pure, and somebody else says, no, he's not so pure. So it's a concept. It is only at the theoretical level. Vasishta is warning through this story. Beware. All these stories are meant to be practiced, are meant to be implemented in our life. And once you do that, then everything will be all right. So this Dirgha Tapas, he had lived his life, and he was a Jivan Mukta, and having understood himself, having known himself, he decided to drop his body, and he dropped his body. Now, the reaction of these two sons. First one is the response of Punya. Punya was an enlightened soul. He had understood himself. So he proceeded to do the ceremony, the funeral ceremony, and all those rituals he wanted to do. And he was continuing in this poise. He was not disturbed, but he was doing it very efficiently. Undisturbed mind, and he was peaceful unto himself. Whereas Pavana, both these people were attached to the father. Pavana started missing him. He literally became, he started roaming around, crying for his father. Where are you? I want you to come back. I never wanted you to die, and things like that. After the ceremonies are over, the elder brother, Punya, approaches Pavana, and he starts asking one wonderful question to him. You see, there is a hint here also. Pavana did not approach the brother immediately when he was in that disturbed state. He continued with his work, and when he saw that Pavana had come for the rituals and he found some sort of poison in him, he had not totally recovered, but he was still sad, but at the same time he was not roaming, he was not disturbed as such. He started talking. He asked him a question. Do you remember how many lives you had before this body? Pavana is literally shaken. Then he says, why are you asking me this question? He says, no, I'm just asking you. Do you remember how many lives you had previously? He says, no, I'll tell you. He was an enlightened soul. He tells him about so many of his births. And then tells him, in each birth, in every birth, you had your parents, you had your siblings, you had your friends. What happened to them? He says, he looks here and there and says, I don't remember them exactly. Still, Pavana did not get the point. And then he starts asking him, what happened to you when you were a child, when you are playing? He says, I don't remember. Exactly. He says, this is what happens to the mind as such. It grabs. Again, it comes to that mushtika. It grabs for those objects and keeps them in those fists, and then become miserable like you. Free your hold. Loosen your grip. And you know how to loosen the grip, because you know how to meditate. Let us meditate. And then it is said that Pavana also gets enlightened. And both of them lived for a long time, and then they became Videha Muktas. This is the story. It's fine to learn about the details of spirituality, but unless and until you practice what you have heard, what you have read, what you have discussed, and maybe what you have argued, it's of no use. It remains only at this level. And So let us all start our steps and start putting those steps. And once you sit for some time, whatever is convenient to you, for a short while, then go on enjoying that being alone for some time, being observing yourself for some time, and then things will happen to you, like the mother-in-law, like our guru, or like that ultimate reality. It will take care of itself. In this, by telling this, I don't mean any way that you stop all your activities. No, not at all. Continue the activity, but continue the activity, remembering that all these happenings which are there, all these events that are there, all these problems that are there, all this happiness that is there, the joy that is there, it's all passing. Remember this. Matra sparshastu kaunteya, shitoshna sukha dukkada, agama payino anitya, tam titikshasva. Tolerate, be patient with them, and be patient with yourself. Be patient with yourself. Everything will be all right. I think I've spoken enough for today. And if there are any questions to ask, please.
If any questions are there, you can ask. Otherwise, you will be asked questions.
I think we should next time I'll just to give a little tension. Let's have a mock test next sitting. Just making fun. No, let's not make this into a examination or something like that. It's fun, basically. You may have doubts, and maybe you're finding it difficult to put it in words. Doesn't matter. You write them down and then pass it on to Sudhakarji, as I was telling you. Maybe we can start. But I'm sure that there are so many of you can ask questions.
Yes, Jayan is ready with a question.
Okay.
No, there. As of now.
Yes, Jayan.
There is no such question. I told now that it is moreover your classes is like a meditation session.
No, I'm very frankly asking you, Jayan. Do you think that it's useful?
Sorry, it got stuck. Sorry, Rick, can you please?
Do you think it is useful to all of you?
Definitely, because it is making it. I told now, whenever we will listen to your talk, it will make us. We will feel like a lightning feeling will be there. We'll feel like that. Okay, and moreover, you are able to sing in such a way. The way you are presenting, it's not like something we are listening a lecture. There is a connection. You are able to bring it up in a different way itself. It is very, very nice, very soothing. We will be feeling, and after each session now, it is literally we are feeling like that. There is a meditation session is over. Just we have to close and sit. That's enough.
Let me narrate which really happened. You see, if this is happening to Jayan, I'm blessed. I consider myself twice blessed. You see, there was one professor in Osmania University who was considered to be an expert on Sri Aurobindo. I do not know how many of you have tried. I tried and I failed to understand what Sri Aurobindo is trying to tell. But then this person, he was considered to be an authority on all his works, and especially that grand, huge poem called Savitri. And one person actually, basically, he was not a farmer as such, but he had a lot of farmland. And quite comfortable as such. And he came to visit this professor in Hyderabad. And he said that, Professor, I tried to read Sri Aurobindo and especially Savitri, but before, you know how the professors are, before he started completing his sentence, he started, yes, it's very difficult. And to understand Aurobindo, you have to know Latin, Greek, and blah, 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 he went on. And then again, when professor became silent, the man said, that's what I'm trying to tell you. Very calmly, that person was telling that I'm not able to read Sri Aurobindo. Again, the professor misunderstood and he went on for some time. Then after some time, when professor found this person totally unmoved, he's just listening to him very calmly, he felt little uncomfortable, the professor, because otherwise he's used to ask people asking questions and all that. The man said, the gentleman who had come, he said, then you were saying? He says, yes. Immediately there was a smile, broad smile on that person who was visiting him. He said, I'm unable to read Sri Aurobindo because the moment I open this Savitri, some kind of light comes from within, and then I'm satiated. I'm in a meditative mood. Immediately the professor, that's the goodness. That's what happens if you are even a scholar of this thing. He immediately touched the feet of the man. He said, this is what Aurobindo wanted. He wanted that people should get light out of this Savitri. It need not be the words. Now I remember the professor. Now I remember he had said with him, you have already achieved what Savitri wants you to achieve. So if this session has been useful to you, I'll consider myself twice blessed. Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Namaste, Raghu sir.
Namaste.
Vishal here, sir.
Vishal, I know Vishal.
सर अभी आपने एक्चुअली जो स्टोरी अभी बताई वो दृश्य वाली, is it something related to the statement given by J. Krishnamurti, and you have also mentioned in your book that observer is observed?
Exactly, it is the same thing. Thinker.
Actually, I could not understand this particular thing. If you can express it a little bit more, then it will be very helpful, sir.
Okay. Basically, what is it that we are searching? We are actually this approach which we talked about was from external to internal. Now, what Krishnamurti said, J. Krishnamurti says, he has not come outside. This approach has to be with every one of us. That is, we see the world outside. What is it that is seen by, who sees this world? Or let me put it the other way. What instrument do we use to see this world? He says, Lochana, eyes. Eyes see this world. But eyes, unless and until they are connected with the mind as such. Many times when we are deeply thinking, our eyes are seeing the whole thing, but since we are not connected, we don't perceive it. We don't experience it, what we experience from sight. So he says, mind is there. Mind is the drak. Mind is the seer of the eye. And if you still go inside, if you start observing the mind, because mind is full of flow of thoughts. Basically, mind is nothing but flow of thoughts. It may consist of the concerns. It may consist of the desires which you have. It may consist of the goals which you fix. Or it may be just thinking about your friends and things like that. So basically, it's a flow of thoughts. Now, this flow of thoughts is also seen by an entity, a person, if you may say so. And that entity is only Sakshi. And Krishnamurti he's starting from that side. That is from the thinker or the person who is perceiver or that witness which we talked about. He says, all this manifestation, all this is the product, this thinking, because thinker is a product, the thinker is a flow of thoughts. So this thinker is also a product of thinking. Because of this thinking, the mind has come to exist. The mind exists because of this thinking process. That is what J. Krishnamurti, but it is not relevant here. Today's talk, it was not relevant here. So
Okay.
today's talk was we are going from outside to inside, the process of going within. And J. Krishnamurti is in a very lofty place of what sometimes he tells from his point of view, thinker, and that every one of us will reach that stage, but we'll come to that in the coming discussions which we have.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
But this abhyasa is not that easy. Again, all your vrittis keep coming and troubling you in abhyasa also.
Actually, I do not know. Sudhakar remembers one Achalanandji Maharaj.
I heard it.
Probably it was much later. It was during 76 during our training program. Mm-hmm. He was an chief executive engineer of CPWD. And he became that Chaturashrama. He took sannyasa after the Vanaprastha. He was 75 when he took the sannyasa. So what he was telling is, when somebody came and asked him that why is it that the mind keeps when we are trying to do abhyasa, something or there's some hindrance comes and then we are unable to continue the practice. Immediately he asked the person who had come. There are certain hints which are given by these great people, because of their experience. He asked him casually. He said, "For how long do you have any idea for how long you have been doing all this? How old are you?" He asked. He said that we were 25, 26 at that time. He said that 25. That is, for 25 years, you have trained yourself for thinking like this. Moreover, you have lives before for which you have been habituated to think like that. That's what the beauty of Mushtika. That we are all the time grabbing. Just when we are trying to meditate, what are the disturbing element? What are the disturbing elements that disturb us from meditation? It is this outgoing, trying to seek, trying to grab. We'll come to a very beautiful statement much later on, which Vasishtha says. Based on this, he makes a wonderful statement, which is again, it's post-dhyana period. So we'll come to that later on. First of all, we'll try to get into dhyana.
Patanjali gives the clue, Satudirgha Kala. But what is that? How long it is? Dirgha Kala. It is timeless.
That's the beauty of Vasishtha. Vasishtha, Yoga Vasishtha, he never says nahatat, nabalat. Don't be forceful on your mind. The moment you are forceful, then mind will protest. And it will protest in such a manner that you will be unable. Do you know, I heard Swami Sarupriyananji, he's just next to Ranganathananji. I felt that he was like that. He made a statement. He said that, do you know, whenever you are sitting for meditation, when you are sit for meditation or you are doing a task, you get a small ping ping. These days, you get a message on your mobile. It's a great instrument, all right, but it's a nuisance many a time. So the moment it comes, we immediately
tendency,
that grabbing tendency, you grab the mobile and see what has come. Probably in Chalakudi says today's temperature is 28 degrees. It's a very insignificant information which we want. We are not bothered about that. But what happens? Sarupriyananji puts it very beautifully. What he says is this 10 seconds of your attention elsewhere, it robs you of your attention for 15 minutes. It takes nearly 10 to 15 minutes to come back to the mood which you are in. So that because it's habit. And any habit can be removed. That's what Patanjali says. Any habit can be removed, eliminated through one more positive habit. And this positive habit is, if you follow what Patanjali is telling, Dirgha Kala Nairantarya and all that, fine. But at the same time, my dear friend, be patient on yourself. Don't be harsh on yourself. Be patient. Doesn't matter. Okay. If not today, tomorrow. If not tomorrow, day after tomorrow.
We are in a hurry even to get that state, even to get into that state. We are in a hurry. We want, because that has become the nature of our mind to get into that.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Somehow or the other, in the corporate sectors, they say that what is the attitude of the boss? The boss says, I want this to be done yesterday. So naturally, the person who is working for you, he's disturbed. How can I do it? I mean, preferably, he says, within an hour, I want this report. How is it possible? But my dear friends, we are in such a world, we'll have to tam titikshasva. Tam titikshasva. Bear it for some time, but be patient. You may hurry up, but even in that hurry, let there be patience. And the moment you become patient, you'll see that things will happen to you. Which we consider, I mean, when we were children, especially boys that we were, I mean, we are, many of us. So we are very eager to learn cycling. So, whenever you're doing cycling, you go what is known as cross pedal, because you are not able to sit on the seat. So because your legs don't reach. So you do that cross pedal. And how many times have you fallen? If somebody examines my maybe knees and feet and all that, there'll be so many injuries which can be seen during the cycling expedition. But we never left the cycling. We never left it. So why do you leave this meditation? Be patient. Be patient, and it will, believe me, it will happen. And spirituality is not at all difficult when compared to the world which we are outside. We are experiencing outside, because world is not as easy as it looks. Especially, I mean, it's really sad. So many of our youth, they have lost their jobs. So many of the people are struggling to make both ends meet. So the world is not easy. But here, you can experiment on yourself. You are there. Your mind is your lab. So let us experiment. I don't say that Nairantarya I'll not recommend, because you have your responsibilities. Don't do that. But sit, at least start for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and preferably at the same time. And if you are able to do 2 times, it's very good. Probably around this time, maybe 6, 7, 7:30, sit for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And early in the mornings, you sit for 10 or 15 minutes. Then slowly and steadily, allow the mind to settle down. And then you'll see the wonders it does to us. So, I think it's...
So much of luggage is there on the head,
So much of luggage is there. My friend, the train is taking us, but still...
Even then we carry that luggage.
Yeah, Vasanta is telling, before the ship sinks, throw the luggage away. Otherwise, you'll be in deep hot water. I mean, saline water or hot water or boiling water, or somebody, as they say, soup. And this is the process. Laugh a lot. Don't take this world so seriously. I mean, it's not worth it. Don't be so serious about somebody said something. Oh, we'll keep it. Again, that becomes a luggage. Take it lightly. And we have friends who take things very lightly. Be light. And the more light you are, the better your meditation will be. The better your meditation will be, the more luggage you will be able to throw.
Thank you. We will conclude today with a Shanti Mantra. Any question? Somebody wanted. Okay, we will conclude with a prayer. सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ओम शांति शांति शांति।